In Cincinnati, been a lot of activities across the city to honor the King's 70th anniversary. The recording studio was in Evanston, but records made there were heard all around the world. King Records is gone now, but Local 12 news anchor John Lomax shows us just how its impact is still with us and is groundbreaking, innovative, and so Cincinnati.
About the only thing you hear on Brewster Avenue in Evanston nowadays is traffic, but there was a time. Future Hall of Famers recorded on Brewster: James Brown, Hank Ballard, the Stanley Brothers, and the Delmore Brothers, all artists at King Records. The only sign of King Records here now is this sign, this plaque from the Rock Hall of Fame, acknowledging the historic contributions of King Records to the music industry. This landmark company was started in 1943 by Sid Nathan. Music historian Brian Powers says that Nathan started with country and soon added R&B and much more.
They weren't just focused on one kind of music. They were doing R&B, they were doing country, they were doing polka. They were just doing just about anything, anything.
But King Records started with so-called hillbilly music, a label devoted to just country music.
But Sid Nathan was the first guy to actually be a record company that was just going to record country music. And that's what he did in 43 and 44 and most of 45. And then in 45 he started a second label called the Queen label, which was his R&B label. The
two labels were later merged into King, and Nathan used artists from both genres to record the same songs.
A lot of the R&B artists were doing country songs that were owned by King, and a lot of country artists were covering R&B songs that were done by King artists. That was sort of Sid's way to make more money because he owned the copyright on the songs.
Hearts made of stone.
Otis Williams recorded big hits at King Records in the 1950s as part of Otis Williams and the Charms, a doo-wop group.
We were lucky that the kids were looking for something to do at that time, a different music, not their parents' music, the jazz and the big bands, and so we happened to come up with something they liked.
Williams and other artists at King Records, like James Brown, became chart toppers. Local musician Bootsy Collins remembers as a 15-year-old with stars in his eyes, hanging out in King's parking lot, waiting to see his idols.
It was one of those times where it was a highlight. Every day, it was like we were in Disney World every day in that parking lot at King Records, just waiting for the next ride.
Early on, Nathan pushed radio stations with segregated playlists to play black artists. And Powers says that Nathan had an integration policy in the 1940s. That was different. Another innovation, sort of a recording one-stop shopping.
Sid was a bit of a control freak, and he wanted to be able to sell his stuff with his own salesman, and so he basically had his own national distributing system, which makes that completely unique. And he also made his own records, made his own album covers. He did everything there in Evanston on Brewster Avenue.
That wanting control led to some disputes with artists, notably James Brown. Nathan argued with Brown over money and music.
James Brown's music was sort of the future, and I don't think he didn't quite understand that kind of, like that was going to be the future.
Otis Williams tells the story of when Nathan and producer Henry Glover called him about a James Brown song.
He and Henry Glover and asked me what did I think of James's song. They played it for me and I said, it's a hit. That was Please, Please, Please. So he said, two against one. Henry thinks it's a hit. I don't like it. He said, but you like it, so we're going to throw it out there. I said, okay. Next thing you know, James is king.
He really didn't start taking off until the early 60s, and I think when that started happening, I think Sid started having some respect for James Brown. They still argued about money, though.
There have been proposals for years now for something more substantial than a plaque to remember King Records. The late James Brown even talked about it on a visit here in 1997. The calls are still there.
It started right there at King Records. So it's a Cincinnati legacy. I mean, the city should be very proud of the fact that it was done right here.
Why are we not taking our history and putting it up like the rest of the people, you know, Motown, Stack? Why? I mean, we got it here, and we're just throwing it away.
the music's still around. You can still listen to that. So
Yeah.
that's his legacy, I think.
A legacy that is So Cincinnati. John Lomax, Local 12.
Oh, I'm embarrassed to tell you I still have a few of those fun records. And I was at a fundraiser for the SPCA just recently, and there was a gentleman there who said, my family's part of the King record thing. So I was excited that we could share that story.
That is
so
really
much
cool.
history there. And John Lomax, so you tell it so well. Yeah. We got some